Salut, so welcome to the live Q&A or Wednesday live Q&A. So I'm taking some questions relating to moving to France, creating a business and running a business in France. I'm going to be cheating again because it doesn't look like my streaming from Restream is working on Instagram. So I'm also going to be looking sideways on my phone. I like to cheat a little bit because it's just easier for me. Hi, Katie. I'll take your questions later. So basically, in this half an hour, I'm going to be taking some questions relating to moving to France, maybe applying for a visa to come and work here, creating your business, or managing a business in France. Just before I start taking some questions I've listed this week, I'm just going to give you a few news. Hi, Cynthia. I'm really bad at names. Last time I said hi, Varol. I said Varol as a she, and Varol is a man based in Turkey. So I do apologize, Varol, if you're watching this week. Hi, Le Petit Cottage. So basically, I wanted to say that this is the last live I'll be doing on a weekly basis for February. I said I would be doing the whole of February, but next week I'm also doing some volunteer work for charity, and next Wednesday I have some stuff with them. So I won't be coming doing the live next week, but what we'll do from March, I will be doing a live Q&A on YouTube and Insta. And I also will be doing a live interview. So I have a lineup of people that will be coming to interview. And there will be people who have moved to France and are running a business. So we'll be talking about their move to France, the country they came from, why they moved here, their expertise in their field. And we'll also be talking about the nitty-gritty about their business and their experience of working on their business. So I think that'll be quite fun. I'll be trying to do March, I will do one, and then I'll try to do 2 interviews per month. They will be live and they will be on YouTube. Hi, Aname Floral Design. Nice to see you here. So that's what I wanted to say. From March, it would be one live just once a month. And I will mention it on YouTube. I will add the event before so you can add it to your calendar. And I will mention it on Instagram. The other thing I wanted to talk to you is this week I spent hours editing a video for YouTube. I already have a long video explaining what the micro entrepreneur is. But in this new video, which I should publish on Friday, I've called it the French Business 101. And I'm giving you a full overview of the different types of businesses that we have in France to give you an idea of which one you might want to go for. And you will see I'll talk about the French business stages as a way to say, okay, let's start with a small business and go up. So it's been a pain to edit because it's quite tough to make something complex. Sounds simple, but it should be there on Friday. And I will also include it in my newsletter. So I'm going to be taking some questions. I've listed a few here. If you have some, please mention it. So I will start with Katie because I can see that she's here on she's on Instagram. And basically, if I summarize, I'm just going to have to look at my iPad. I'm not looking you here, or I'm even looking at my laptop, at my iPad. Sorry about that. So Katie, she's from Montana in the USA, and she moved to Chambéry 4 months ago with her husband, who's French. Well done to you. So she's interested in making some cream-filled donuts from her home and selling them to the public. She'd like to get exposure by selling them at the Chambéry Farmers Market if possible, as well as taking some orders from customers. I know many food from home. I know that making food from home and selling to the public adds a whole other layer of complications. So what shall I do? How shall I start? So that's a very interesting topic. I have another one about food, but it's true that food is more complex. So first thing is the good news is that Katie, not only is she married to a French citizen, so as a spouse of a French citizen, she could create a business anyway, but she also had some Latvian grandparents. So from her Latvian citizenship, she could create anyway a business in France, even as an American citizen. So now, the true thing is that doing food can be complex. And here for Katie, what I would suggest is that when she creates a business, she declares it as traiteur, chef à domicile. So traiteur, chef à domicile is when, so traiteur is somebody who's going to come and cook dinner for a party. You might work from your home and people are placing orders for your food, or you might go on some premises and cook the food for people. But that's a good way to get into the cooking side for Katie because she did work as a chef in the US. But in France, if you wanted to set up as a pâtissier, which is a baker, this is a regulated trade. So baker, boulanger, pâtissier is a regulated trade. If you wanted to register just even as a baker, you will need to get this qualification going, translated, validated. And when we spoke through messages with Katie, she said that she works as a chef. She's got strong experience as baking from her family history, but she doesn't have the qualification. So I would say the first step for Katie would be to do it more as chef à domicile, traiteur, which at least would enable her to do all the food. So there's a few things that we can talk about for Katie. So one of the things, for instance, she could do for now in order to get ready for this future business is to, I don't know whether she already has it or she might want to take it, is an HACCP training. And it's a hygiene course that is highly recommended. And I will set you up for the hygiene standards in the kitchen. I'm sure she has that experience from her past in the US, but if you have a control, the HACCP training diploma would be requested when there's a check. So she can do this abroad. I know there's some companies who actually do it online, where you can take the test in English. So that would be definitely one to take, and at least it gives us some clue as to what she's working from home, what does she have to comply with, what is relating to the French system. If Katie speaks good French, just know as well that if you are through the Chamber of Commerce or Chambre de Métiers, sometimes they do training, and sometimes you can jump onto part of another training where you're just going to do the 2 or 3 days for the HACCP training, which can also be interesting to view from the French point of view. But I guess if you want to pass that training, it's just easier to do it in English. Now, when you're working from home, one of the tricky bits is that we tend to say that your kitchen needs to be up to professional standards. Well, that's going to be pretty tricky. But I would say the controls that you have, which funnily enough are called the vet control, service DSV, or used to be DSV, which is for veterinary control, which is hygiene, and now it's called DDPP, Direction départementale de la protection des personnes. It's like for protecting people. They come and do checks in restaurants and food-based businesses. But the reality is that they're just so busy. There's few of them, and there's so many places that they hardly do any checks. So short term, just catch up with the hygiene standards and work like this to start with. It should be enough. So I'm just checking what I didn't mention in my notes, but basically, Katie, just ask away if you can see some question. Yeah, I was just saying basically chef à domicile, traiteur, some chef. Working from home, short term is okay for your short term. It's okay for your business. I would say as you grow and develop the business, there's 2 things to look into. If you grow and you want to work into a shop, for instance, at some point you could also do a salon de thé. So I was talking to somebody else this afternoon who was doing a salon thé to do baking and do cooking classes. The advantage of the salon thé is that it's not seen as a baker, so you can cook your own cakes and sell them. So salon thé is also a nice one. So hi, Taron McLean. Does anyone have to pay CFE? CFE stands for Contribution foncière des entreprises. I'm a macro entrepreneur in Haute-Savoie and I don't have any outstanding bills for the CFE in my INPI account. Okay, so CFE is a small tax that you pay once you have a business in France, any kind of business. From the second year in business, you have to start paying that CFE. And Tyron says, been here 3 years, so you have something wrong there. So usually the tax office, the INPI account, you have one personal account, and then you also have a business account. So my first question to you, Tyron, would be, did you also create your business INPI Gouv account? And that's the red one. So if you haven't, go and create the account and it should be placed there. It could be 2 reasons. It could be that the tax office forgot you. And in that case, when you go through your INPI Gouv account, you use the messagerie and you write a message to them to say, I've had my business for 3 years, haven't heard from it. Do you need anything from me? Because usually when you create your business, you get a nasty form called the 1447 form, initial questionnaire about CFE, where they collect some data and then based on that, they charge you a CFE. The second reason why you may not have received one, Tyron, could be that in some area, you actually benefit from an exemption of CFE. It's called, so for instance, there's two areas, one called ZRR, which is rural areas, and there's one where it's more like dense town areas where there's high unemployment. It's called ZFU, and in those two areas, rural or highly dense but with low employment, you can benefit from a CFE exoneration. So it could be either that the tax office missed it, or it could be that you actually are in an area where there's a tax exemption. And if you are in Haute-Savoie, you could be in ZRR, where it's actually an incentive to help bring businesses in a town or in a location. So it could be the reason why. So if you have some question, don't hesitate to ask me. Just check us. Let me put the chat on here so I can see if there's some questions coming here. Captions. Let me see the chats. Hi, Zub. I call her Zub, the way I can't pronounce the names on this. If you have any questions, just ask away and I'll take them as well. I can see them here now. So if I can't see, so Taran says, thanks, I will message them. I filed a CFE paper form twice, but didn't hear back. Okay, so you're in the right, you fill the forms in. So I would guess it's more likely to be an exoneration, because usually if you're in business and you have your account and they haven't received the form, after 1 year, they say we haven't received it or there's some information missing. So it could be that you are in an area where there's an exemption. I had actually another person who had a food business this week. Let me see. Let me just scroll down my iPad. Oh, I didn't miss this one. But basically, it was also food. There was somebody who was saying to me, I'm going to be Bernardo coming from Portugal. And he was coming to France and basically was saying, my business is to sell ice cream from a bike. Do I need to register with Chambre de Métier? Sorry, could you hear my teenagers are putting music high? I'll have to knock on the wall even if the music's too high. So basically, Bernardo was saying that he was going to be selling some ice cream from a bike, bicycle, and he would go either in town on its touristic area or for private events. And he was asking, do I need to register with Chambre de Métier, which is manual activity, or do I need to register with Chambre de Commerce? And basically, he was relating to Chambre de Métier, which is manual based, because he wasn't just reselling the ice cream, he was buying it, mixing it with fruit, and selling it. So that's seen as soon as you start touching products, this is seen as a manual activity, artisan. He's not making his full own ice cream, but he's making ice cream with fruits. So he is making ice cream and he will be registered with Chambre de Métier. And for him, same as for Katie earlier, he needs to pay attention to he needs to take the HACCP training for hygiene. And also the second thing that he needs to consider is when you're selling like this on a bike or on a van, or on a market stall, you are seen as commerçant ambulant, which means that you don't have a fixed address, you keep moving. So you need to have a special code for this called carte de commerçant ambulant. And also when you're not based on one specific location, you need to actually ask the mairie whenever you go to some public spaces. So for instance, let's say he's in Cannes and he drives around Cannes and he stops at different locations, he has to ask the authorization from the mairie to park there. It's different if you're on a private car park, sorry, it's the end of the day for me, or if you're in a private space. But if it's a public space, you need to ask the authorization. And I can remember a few years ago, when selling from a bike started to be a bit trendy, and you had people trying to sell on bikes and sell coffees, and they were knocked down by mairie because they didn't ask for authorization, and the cafes were saying this is competition, we're paying taxes, not them, they need to ask for the authorization. So for Bernardo, he would need to check for this. Let me see. So another question from Richard. So Richard asked me this question by email, and he said, as an auto-entrepreneur, so he's a language teacher, can I apply for help for my rent from CAF, Caisse d'allocation familiale? Can I also apply for Pôle emploi for chômage, unemployment benefits? when I don't have work, is there a special way for auto entrepreneurs to do this? At the moment, I only work 2 days a week. So basically for Richard, so when you are self-employed in France, you're not entitled to any unemployment benefits. So unfortunately, we pay taxes, but we actually pay less taxes than employees. And therefore, if our businesses close down or we have a bad activity, we can't have unemployment benefits. However, if your income is low, you could actually look into getting RSA, Revenu de Solidarité Active, which is with CAF. And basically, they would look at your income for the last 3 months. And if your income is quite low, you might have a top-up income from RSA, but that's quite low. And basically, they look at your turnover over the last 3 months. And just know that as an English teacher, they would consider your business income as being 66% of your sales. The other thing you mentioned here, I think, was I think you were talking about the housing allowance, APL, APL, allocation pour le logement. It's the same thing with this one. They look at your income over the last 12 months. So you need to show copies of your turnover declaration to URSSAF over the last 12 months for the housing, over 3 months for RSA. And based on this, they will do their own calculation and see whether you're entitled to anything. For RSA, they give, or you want to give it, is for 3 months. And again, we renew. They always keep looking at your income. So Katie, if you're there, maybe let me know if you have some questions for your activity. But to me, it's okay to work from home, and the traiteur would be the easiest one to start doing. So at least you have little cost. And I know that, for instance, for people who start cooking from home, I don't know how big your house is, but I know a few traiteurs where at some point, as the activity was developing, they actually set up a professional kitchen in one part of the area. So it was up to the standards that might be needed for a restaurant. It also means that they could produce much more. Let me see in the questions that I had. So I had a question from Gidre. I probably pronounced it wrong. So Gidre on YouTube. So he or she was saying, I opened a freelance activity in France in 2023, and after just 6 months, I moved to Italy to work on a contract for an Italian company. I'm struggling to close down my French company, and I'm not sure to whom to go to declare my address changed from France to Italy, and how to register my social security number. I never received the carte de séjour. And Gidre sent me a copy of the changes that he's starting to make. So basically, when you want to update or close down a business, you're going to have to use procedure.inpi.fr, which is the central hub for business update and closure. Now, the tricky bit that Gidre has come across here is basically when you're a non-French national, usually for that process, so you make the update, you update the address, you update your name, or you close down the business, and at the end, you are given a summary of the changes called synthèse INPI. And basically what you have to do from that stage is you need to electronically sign that summary and upload it back. So you download it, sign it, and upload it. But unfortunately, when I talk about electronic signature, it's not a question of just getting a PDF writer and add a signature. It needs to be recognized by an official body, or to use, in France, we have France Connect, but this one is only available for someone who's declared taxes in France before, paying to INPI and so on. So for most expats, it's just impossible to use this. And as Gidre has come across, basically, you just turn around in a circle, you can't do anything, they don't recognize you. So basically, in order to fix this, you need to actually you can use two potential websites. So you do your changes, download the summary, which is called Synthèse, and then you can try to use Trust Pro. So my customers use Trust Pro and manage this quite well. And the other one, I think, is Search Europe. So basically, it's an external website that produces officially recognized electronic signature. So you're going to, for instance, with Trust Pro, you create an account and it's for free. It's free if you do just the one signature. So you create your account, then you're going to be uploaded the document that you want to sign off, and then there'll be a lengthy process where you're going to have to check your ID with either your mobile phone or uploading a piece of ID. So that's like your passport. So that's quite complex, but that's the only way it can be actually finalized. So you download the summary, then you go on TrustPro or Sort Europe, follow the process, and I would say do it when you have peace and quiet, because you might lose 40 minutes going back and forth, updating the data, your passport, your phone number. And once this is done, you will see that all it does is at the top of the sentence, it adds like a little code and your signature down the bottom. And once this is done, you go back to INPI website, procedure.inpi, and then you upload the document, and that should work. So not fun, but that's how it's done. Salut Ella, I can see that my daughter just checking in, say hello. So Taran says, is there any way to get funding from the government for French lessons? Someone said you can get them through the formation fees we pay through tax, or do you know any other way? So that's a good tip, exactly. When you have your business in France, or even if you've been an employee in France, there's some money that is being paid into a training fund, which is called CFP, contribution à la formation professionnelle. When you are, for instance, a micro-entrepreneur, when you pay your taxes, you'll see the social charges, income tax, and then there's a tiny fee called CFP, contribution à la formation professionnelle. And with this one, basically, you are paying money towards a training fund, which means that you're building up an amount of money that you'll be able to request at some point for funding. And usually you have to pay at least for 1 year before you can start claiming that money. So Taran, if you've been in business for 3 years, and provided you've paid taxes, then you should have some money there. So you have to go and create your account. It's called compte formation professionnelle online. Mon compte formation professionnelle, and then you'll be able to check the amount that is available. So just be careful, because there's a lot of scam about training funds, because there's so much money on there that some companies are trying to take the money out. So basically, check Mon compte formation, and once you log in and you add your business details, you'll see how much money is available for you to spend on training. And usually when you reach a certain level of turnover, it should be adding about 500 euros per year of training. And I think the cap is about, I think you can't have more than 3,000 euros on the account, but it means that money is piling up for you to spend. And that's the great way to pay for French lessons, because basically many companies would be, when you spend the money, it has to be with a company which is validated as a training company and can take the funds. It's been validated by the states, and you can pay them for that. So basically, look locally for a company who might be providing French lessons. Usually, if you say, or if you can search on the catalog for French lesson, CFP or compte formation, you see companies, and what you have to do is you request for a quote from them. Then they would follow a process for the funding to be paid for. And usually the companies whose training can be paid for partly or fully by CFP, they're used to the process. So they give you a quote, and it has to be sent to CFP. Then same thing, it would be a validation process, probably with, I think I've done it last year. I've paid for training last year. I left my account go for a while, and basically there was about 3,000 euros worth of training on the fund. I can't take the 3,000 euros, but basically there was a training I wanted to do. I got a quote from the company, and then they guided me to get that quote validated through the training fund, and the training was paid for, so I didn't have to pay anything. So that's a great thing. Look into it, Mon compte formation, and look at your CFT tax, but I'm sure there will be a small amount available there. And look for a company locally which will be used to dealing with it, and they will guide you through the way to actually pay for it. And I think it was through Mon Identité Numérique through La Poste. They have a special ID check in order to spend the money, because there's been a few scams about the training fund. So Katie says, hey Valerie, thanks for the answers. I want to clarify, if I want to sell my donuts at the Chambéry market, do I apply for a chef à domicile and register with Chamber of Commerce? So basically, Katie, when you register your business, it has to be registered with INPI, so procedure.inpi. We register your business there. And when we describe the activity, if we say chef à domicile traiteur, basically that type of activity relates to chambre de métier. So in the backend, so you handle registration as a micro entrepreneur with INPI, but in the backend, the registration is sent to Chambre de Commerce, Greffe du Tribunal, who validate your papers. So we have quite a bit of paperwork because it's Chambre de Commerce. So there's quite a bit of paperwork. They check it and then they validate the creation, and you get your CIRET number. And basically, the CIRET number is your unique business ID number, and that's a number that would be requested by the market if they want to validate that you're fully legal. If you're thinking about selling often at local markets, for instance, at the same time, I would say vente. I would also add vente ambulante, so you can get the special card that people have when they sell on markets. So it's more if you want to sell on markets, normally you need to have that card. So in that case, you also include it as part of the registration process. So you're fully set up to go anywhere you want. I think that card usually costs an extra 40 euros on top of the registration. And Katie says, is the HACCP training required or just recommended? I say strongly recommended. It's not required to register, but to me it's best to have, so that at least if you have a check, you can show this. And it shows at least you've looked into the hygiene thing. But Katie, send me an email and I'll send you the details of the company I know for with whom you can take the training in English. Valerie at startbusinessinfrance.com. Just having a quick look at the questions here. So seems okay here. So the other questions that I had, let me have a look. So we talked about the business closure. We talked about English teacher. So I had a question from Anna and Will. So Anna and Will are on the Start Business in France forum. So that's my private forum when you join for a year, and you can ask me any questions relating to your business. So that's why I don't have the live, so you can ask your questions relating to your business. And Anna and we are saying, my husband and I are planning to move to France and buying a property with a Gites business attached. Are we better off setting up our own business from scratch or simply getting a name change of the existing business? So that's question number one. So I'm going to answer it now so it's easier. So basically, usually when you buy a large property and on that property there's one or several Gites, usually the person selling always close their business, even though we know that in practice they're going to keep taking bookings for you, so that next year when you take over, it's already partly booked with potential customers that they haven't said no to someone who wanted to stay. But basically, you close the business, they close the business down. And when you buy the property, once you own the property, then we register a brand new business. The reason for this is that when you buy a property, you talk with the notaire and you're buying a property itself. If they were selling a business with it, then we would need to value a business, and there could be some added value taxes on it. So it's just too complex. So especially for a Gites business, which is usually quite small, it's just much easier as part of the process. And usually the estate agent would recommend you just shut the business. They shut the business down. In the meantime, you just agree with them that if they have some bookings, they keep taking the bookings so that they can give you the name. But basically, you will restart a business from scratch once you own the business. And the second question from Anna and Will was we are in the process of applying for French visas and are about to submit our business plan for approval. Do we need to submit a business plan each, i.e. in each of our names, or is it fine to submit just one joint business plan? So basically, it depends. So it depends. So you said you are married, and you are. So I have to guess which kind of visa you're going for. So if you're going for a French visa profession libérale, I don't know from the message whether you plan to create the Gites as a sole trader or with your partner being a collaborating partner, or whether you plan to create an incorporated business. But let's say you're going for a micro entrepreneur. If you go for micro entrepreneur, it's basically if your partner is a collaborating partner, it's one visa each. So you're submitting the same projects, but it's one visa each. But it depends how big your business is. If the Gites is actually quite small and not really actually keeping you both busy. It might be that one of you applies for a business visa, profession libérale, and the other comes with a tourist visa as being inactive. So I would need to have more information on this, but basically, if it's the two of you as entreprise individuelle, and because you're married, the other one is conjoint collaborateur, you get one point of view from Gites on the business, but you get one visa each. So it's like two applications. You just know that when you apply for that as a conjoint collaborateur, most of the time people at the French embassy are not very familiar with conjoint collaborateur. So include documents that show that you can have a conjoint collaborateur as a micro entrepreneur because they're not used to it. So I can see a question from Paolo. Oh, let me see, it's on YouTube, so I can try to show it. So Paolo says, hello, is it possible to get a French long-term visa, 1 to 4 years, when I had micro-entrepreneur? Is it enough to show income more than minimum salary? Is it mandatory to provide business or innovative plan for a long-term visa? So Paolo, are you applying for a visa? Are you applying for a visa talent or are you applying for a visa profession libérale? Is it possible to get a French long-term visa? So have you closed the micro-entrepreneur down or do you want to reopen one? Because basically, I don't know whether you're applying from home. Usually, basically, either you apply for a visa profession libérale. So for this one, it is issued for 1 year. And you could actually ask for it to be issued for pluriannual, but you need to actually mention it. They tend to do it 1 year based on your business plan. And when you are in France, it's 1 year renewable. So once you're here, then with the préfecture, when you get to renew it, you actually you renew it for 1 year. But you could, if you have a very big, if your business is doing very well and you have high income, basically what I would suggest is when you get to renew it, you actually physically write down that you request a pluriannual renewal so they can issue a renewal, for instance, for 3 years. So Paulo says that he is going to open a new business. So basically, if you go for visa profession libérale, I would say micro-entrepreneur is great. If you go for a visa talent, which is a type of visa which is issued for 4 years, basically this one, it's 3 or 4 years, but this one is tougher because basically it's issued for 4 years with the visa talent, you actually have to invest 30,000 euros in the business. And with the micro entrepreneur, it's tricky to show it because unless you have money in a French bank, they would want it to see in a business, incorporated business. So it's just easier usually to go for a profession libérale for 1 year. If with the contract that you currently have, you can show that you can have a high income. For instance, let's say you're going to be making at least 50,000-60,000 euros of turnover when you apply for the visa. Straight away ask for a pluriannual visa. They might just give you 1 year, but once you're in France and you've shown you've been having a good turnover and it's going well, and you've signed a contract, in that case, at that point, ask for a pluriannual. Otherwise, it's just 1 year, then we renew it 3 times, and then you get the residency card. And you said, is it enough to show income more? Is it enough to show income more than minimum wage? So basically, for the visa profession libérale, they're not asking you to invest any money in the business, but what they want to see is that you have at least the minimum wage, SMIC, which is roughly about 19,000 euros. So basically, they want to see that through the business, you're going to be earning at least 19,000 euros. So in terms of turnover, we're more talking about 27,000 euros of turnover, and or that you have savings. So for me, in the best scenario, you want to show that your business plan and your financial plan, you're going to be aiming for the 26,000 euros of turnover. If you have letters of recommendation, potentially signed contract, that's great. And also show that you have some savings so that this way you're showing that whatever happens when you're in France, even if the business is not doing as well as you want, you still have the savings to allow you to live. And basically, when they say, for instance, when they say 19,000 euros of turnover, of income, for a year, they're not expecting you to do that straight away. When we do a financial plan, it's a projection. I think I'm going to be making that much because I have this potential contract, I have those people supporting me and saying they're interested. but you have the full year to show it. It's only when you get to renew your visa that at that point they will look again at your income to say, okay, how well did you do this year? If you didn't do it as well as expected, do you have some saving to match this up? So for instance, let's say that in your first year you're not doing as well, then at that point you want to show that you still have savings to allow you to earn some income in France. So it's basically the business plan is validated on a potential. Initially, they're looking at, okay, how logical is your business plan? Does it look viable? Does it look like you've made the contacts to actually have those customers, that you have experience in this field, and all that you have savings, have at least some savings? They judge your visa based on this. And then 1 year later, once you're in France and you get to renew the visa, is based on what you've done so far, plus your savings. Paolo says, is the business plan mandatory for such a visa? Yeah, so any visa, any business visa you apply for France, so whether it's visa, profession libérale, visa talent, you need the business plan, you need the financial plan with projection over 3 years. And basically, when you get to renew after 1 year, you just dig out your business plan, put a correlate on top to say, okay, this is what I've done. This is what I've done so far. Last year, this is how far I've done. Here are my turnover declaration copies. Here's my saving account showing I still have some income. Here's a copy of my health cover to show that you still that you've done everything they wanted you to do: create a business, earn some income, still have some saving, have a health cover, and they will renew it based on that. So the business plan is useful when you apply for a visa, and it's also for business visa, and it's also reusable to me. I recycle it after 1 year and say, right, I've done this, I said I would do this, and yes, I did all of this. I actually did well. So let me know, Paolo, if that answered your questions. I'm just checking on Instagram if I have more questions. I think my iPad just frozen. Let me see which other questions did I have. Oops. Oh yeah, I had a question also about a carpenter. Okay, so Paolo seems okay. You're welcome, Paolo. I had another question as well. This one was also interesting because this one is a regulated activity. Yeah, my iPad's kind of frozen, so I'm going to do it by memory. Now I've seen the small details, but basically, I think it was Sarah. So Sarah is Canadian. She's so she said she's saying this: if a carpenter has 7 years of experience, 5 in Canada and 2 in France, no French recognized qualification, would they be able to set up as an auto-entrepreneur, or do they need a 3-year experience in France, Europe before they can set up? So that's a good question, because it sounds like Sarah has done some research already. Basically, carpenter is a regulated trade. So basically, building trade, carpenter, roofer, builder, tiler, all regulated, even beautician and hairdresser. You need to have a recognized qualification, or at least 3 years of experience in order to register as in that sector with a business, as what we call artisan. So in this case, we have a carpenter, and that person definitely has 7 years of experience, because there's 5 in Canada and 2 in France. So to me, it doesn't matter. It's not just to me. The law is that it doesn't matter where your experience is. However, we want proof of this experience. And basically, when we get to register the business with procedure de INPI, in the back end, when we send a registration, is sent to Chambre de Métier, the body who's actually responsible for artisan, and they check all the documents. And basically, at that point, they would want proofs of your 3 years of experience, which could be pay slips with, for instance, in that case for Sarah, the pay slips would have to mention carpenter. It's like when we talked to Katie earlier, if the pay slips don't say baker, it doesn't count. If it says sous chef, it's not a baker, so it doesn't, although she has the experience, practical experience, but it doesn't say baker, so that doesn't work for being a fully recognized baker in France. So in that case, for the 2 years in France, at least we have 2 years with a pay slip where it will say charpentier. And then we need an extra 1 year from Canada. So either whether, I don't know whether it's for Sarah herself or for a partner, either, for instance, an extra year of being an employee with copies of payslip where it says carpenter, or an extra year as a self-employed person. So it can be an or, but definitely we want the full 3 years. If there's 2 months missing, it won't work. And if you've been freelancing, it would be legal documents that you were registered as a carpenter, or copies of your loss and profit account as carpenters, for instance, could count. And that's really a pain in the neck because I have a couple of customers with whom we've been fighting back and forth with Chambre de Métier for this. I have one carpenter. We've been fighting with the body that recognizes this person has a qualification, but in the UK, it's a city of guild as a carpenter. Unfortunately, that qualification was received many years ago, and ENIC and IC, the body that recognizes qualifications, they're struggling to recognize it because it's more than 20 years ago. That school doesn't exist anymore, and so on. It's been merged, so we've been going back and forth with them to get it recognized, and it's taking forever. And I had another customer, it's the same thing. It's taking forever because INPI gets the info, they send it to Chambre de Métier. Chambre de Métier online, so each time we're losing 2-3 weeks going back and forth. So the more you do before to get your qualification recognized, the better. So anyway, for Sarah, it's a question of getting copies of those payslips and getting copies of the proof of the documents in Canada, and then she will use that for the registration. Nothing will be done without it. Chambre de Métier is a pain in the neck. They're kind of protecting the level of skills for artisan, but it's just very paper-based. So I think that's all I had to say for today. I just have a question, but I think I covered them all. So we'll end this session for today and basically confirm that next week there's no live Q&A, and for March it will be one live Q&A per month. And I will also start the interview because I think it would be nice for you to hear from other people having worked as freelancers or working as freelancers in France. And whether there's a live, we also keep a bit of time at the end to do some live Q&A, which will be, at this case, probably more based on the industry that this person is. So thank you for joining in today. I think I've answered all the questions. I wish you a nice evening or a good day, and I catch up with you later on in March. Bonne soirée ou bonne journée. Merci à tous.